Here I go. Recording. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the end of week two, right?
No.
Hooray. Okay, I'm so just pleased with this group and how everyone is coming together, and like already we're having this cross-team collaboration between the pairs, and that's really exciting, and I'm really proud of what everyone is doing. So with that, let's who would like to demo first?
We could hop in. We can go. Yeah, is that okay?
We were kind of hoping you guys would, since
Okay.
we're tokens.
All right, cool. Let's do it.
Perfectly. Okay.
Go for it.
All right. I will share my screen. Here we go. And okay, and I can still see your faces this time. So can everyone see my screen okay?
Yep.
Wonderful. All right, well, I'm going to start off just by going over our acceptance criteria for this week. We were tasked with, for users who don't have a token or a list created already, we want a button on the home screen that allows them to create a new list. And when they click that button, that should generate a token that is then saved to local storage. Once the token's been saved, or created and saved, then the user should be automatically redirected to the list view. If they try to go to the list or add view without first having made a token, they'll be redirected to the home. And then once they have a token saved, when they come to the website for the first time, when that application loads, they should be automatically directed over to the list view. And so Viet's going to talk about the code here that we're seeing.
All right, so if we go down to our roots, we can see that in the first two roots, we're looking for a token, and if that token exists, we are either going to render the list view or the add item view. Otherwise, we're going to be redirected to our home view. And you can see below that, with the home view, it's kind of similar there. If the token exists, we are going to be redirected to our list view. Otherwise, our welcome component is going to get rendered. What that's doing is basically, it's not allowing the user to just type in the list view and go there if they don't have a token. So it's just a little, I think, safety thing to make sure they have a token. If we go up, one thing I wanted to mention. So we can see that we were passing our handle click function to the onClick prop. And if we go back up to the line 11 there, we're using useState and the useState hook, and we're trying to set our token to what's in local storage if it exists. Otherwise, we're setting token to an empty string. Below that is our handle click function, and we call the get token function, and the get token function is something that you all gave us. And basically what that's doing is it calls a random number generator. We're using those numbers to pull random words out of that ginormous list of words that exists at the top of the file. That gets returned to us. So 3 words get returned to us. And then we're going to set that into the local storage. So on line 15, the user token is the key and token is the value. And as of right now, token, if it doesn't exist, is an empty string. And then we're going to use set token to set the value of token to those 3 words that were just pulled out of get token. A lot of tokens in there, so sorry if that was confusing at all. So let's take a look at our welcome component and what we did there. We added a new button called create a new list. We also destructured the prop just to make it a little bit more readable in a way. So instead of props.onClick, we can just say onClick. And below the function, we are using prop types. And what that's doing, so that line prop types function that is required is saying, hey, onClick, we need to give onClick something, and that something should be a function. So if there's nothing past onClick, we'll get an error in the console. If that something is not a function, that'll show up as an error in the console as well. So yeah, that's about it. What do you have, Brittany?
All right, well, I'm going to walk us through the application in the browser. So right now, as we can see in our DevTools and application local storage, we don't have any token generated or saved. So we go automatically to the welcome page. If we try to go to list, we get redirected back to the welcome page. And if we try to go to add, again, we get redirected because we don't have any tokens saved. So when we click this button, create a new list, we'll see a token populated in our local storage. And we see that we're redirected to list. And now if we try to go back to our welcome page, we get automatically rerouted. And that is pretty much it for us. Any questions?
What did you feel like? I love the description of the prop types, by the way. That was really awesome. And this demo is fantastic. Really good demo. What did you feel like was the most challenging piece, or what was the most challenging piece?
Let's see. I think initially I want to say that I think I had a little problem with like the use state hook at first, just kind of wrapping my head around what we were doing with that. And even when we were putting together this demo, I was like, so is this what's happening? And Brittany's like, no, that's not exactly what is happening. So I guess like just the concept of that was kind of like was lost on me for a while. Yeah.
I feel like you understand state a little bit better now. Do you want to like talk about it, or like hear like what a mentor would think is a simplified explanation of it?
Sure.
Would that be helpful for the group?
Yeah.
Be great.
Chris, can I call on you to do it, because Chris is incredibly eloquent when it comes to things like this.
Yeah, we could talk about state. I'm sure that if I just rehashed the basics, I might be repeating what you already know, but are there like specific questions that I could help answer around it?
Do you want to just give us kind of your broad like overview of what you would consider state to be?
Yes.
Sure thing.
Like from like getting started, it's just helpful to hear like a TLDR on things. And so, yes.
Yeah, so when it comes to the application state, I think that, it tracks a lot of different things in an application. It can track things like the data that exists in the system. So things like the items in our lists. Very frequently we're like fetching that from another API or database and then inserting that into our application state. But it also cares about other things as well, right? Like there's certain things that are local state. The example of the token is probably a pretty clear one, where there's a local storage that you're using to kind of persist the application state between sessions. But then each time that you load it into the library or into the browser, you are pulling that out and pulling that into the state of the application itself. And that one is also kind of reflected in the API as well, because it kind of gets sent along with the request to tag each of the items. And then there's even other kinds of state too that might have nothing to do with the data itself, but might have to do more with the application. So I believe that some of the form elements that we have whenever we're creating new items, I think some of those values are tracked in state. Other things that might be stateful are like, is the application loading right now, right? Like whenever you load up an app on your phone, usually there's like a loading screen, and like whether or not to show the loading spinner or not, that's also a piece of application state. So those are all kind of the things that are stateful about an application. And the reality is that it's pretty complicated. Even how this application is storing its state, right? Like it's kind of coming from multiple different places. We've got local storage, we've got the API and the REST database, and then we've also got other miscellaneous UI pieces of state. But the tool that we use to sort of pull those together and keep track of them in a more unified place here is React's state hooks. But there's other ways to track those too, like Redux is a really common and popular library for a more like heavy duty state management system, for example. But yeah, what y'all have got going here, I think is a really great start with the local storage stuff. Also, I concur, great demo. Thanks for showing us under the hood what was happening with the local storage. That was phenomenal. And I'd be curious to see how the application state is going to change and scale over time too. Like the practice of persisting something to local storage and then synchronizing it with what is in React state. I mean, here you're doing like a pretty good job of it, but that can become really complicated, and sometimes keeping those in sync over time can be difficult. Another interesting thing to comment on here is we initialize our state in this app component, and then we hand down a handler to a child component, which can enact on that state, which is this handle click, right? And in this current example, like it's pretty simple. We just create a handler, we hand it down to a single component, and it's gonna maybe call back with that callback to update the state. But it can get so much more complicated than that, right? Like what if you have an application tree that's like 20 components long and you have to hand that handle click function all the way down that tree? It's as your state grows and becomes more complicated, you've got to start answering questions like that. And fortunately, React has solutions built in, and we can talk about things like using context or other things like that later on if your application, grows to that point. But yeah, I mean, so far, I'm really pleased to see how y'all are managing state. And even if it was confusing initially, it seems to be working pretty well now. So
it's like this most simple way that I like to think about it is, I have something that I want you to remember, app. Hey, app, remember this thing. And it's like, sure, I'll save it in state. And you're like, okay, update that state. And that's where you use like the hook. It's like, here's your state, here's your update state. And then you can keep getting that data over and over again. But Chris had mentioned context as a way to manage more complex state, which is something that you might want to keep in mind for further stories. But very, I loved it.
Were you going to say something, Brittany?
Oh, no, go for it.
Oh, because I think one article that we looked at, or the video that we looked at, mentioned context, right? And we're like, I think that's going a little bit deeper than we need to at this moment. But we'll put a pin in that and like circle back when we have to.
Put a pin in it and circle back when you have to. I love it. It's perfect.
Well, I'm really excited to see Rachel and Dee's demo because I know that got really deep into how to use state with forms. So I'm excited to hear from both of you.
Let's see it.
Nice. All right. Thanks to everybody.
Amazing demo.
Thanks.
Very good demo.
Yeah, good stuff.
Very
We have a dog with a squeaky toy.
I know it's squeaky toy. Sorry.
Usually with Lauren, it's like violins. And
Usually it's violin. Today I got the squeaky toy. Ridiculous.
I love everything about it.
All right. To Rachel and Dee. Woohoo.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Do you guys see the GitHub?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So we had issue 4, or I guess 5. I don't really know. The numbering is kind of weird. But our issue was, as a user, I want to add a new item to my shopping list so I can start recording purchases. And our acceptance criteria was a user is presented with a form that allows them to enter the item name and select how soon they anticipate needing to buy the item again. And these inputs here would be the options that they had: soon, kind of soon, or not soon. And the values would be 7, 14, or 30. to represent the days. So when the user submits the form, that this information, the name of item and the time frame, as well as last purchase date, gets sent to the databases and is saved based on the user's token. And also last purchase date is initially defaulted to null. And once the user has a list, they can view that list in the list view, and it should show the item name as an unordered list. So that was just how we structured our issue and the acceptance criteria for it. And we'll just show the demo first before getting into the code. So Viet and Brittany, they were the ones who came up with grabbing the token. And so as you can see, like what they had, if you don't have a token, then you're on like the home page, the welcome list, and then you can create a list, and then you automatically get this token. And so from here, your list is empty. You can go to add item. And this is where you can choose to add your first item. And this is the form that we created. Once you add the item, you're redirected back to the list view where you have your item as an unordered list. And in the database, you can see this is the new token, and it's now a collection that's been created for the user. And this is what they've added. So you have the item name is a string, last purchase is defaulted to null, and time frame is an integer representing how soon they plan to buy the item. So that's basically how the functionality goes. And so now we'll jump into the code just to explain like what's actually going on in the background. Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So just starting off with the app component, as Viet and Brittany said, they created the token. And so we grabbed their token that they created, the variable, and passed it as props to both the list view and the add item view. And from the add item component, this is where we created our form. And we also used useState to handle state. And so we set up an object here just to hold the initial state of the form, with the item name is initially an empty string, time frame is defaulted to 7, and last purchase is defaulted to null. And then as you're interacting with the form, the state changes and updates. So we split it up into like if you're interacting with the text field or if you're interacting with the radio buttons. So if you are interacting with the radio buttons, the state is updated, but also whatever option you click, that number is going to be, it's sent as a string, but we needed it to be sent as a number. So we just parse int the input. And then the same with form data, or not form data, with the input, the item name input. We just had it so whatever is being manipulated at the time, we're setting the state with the event.target.value. And you can see in our onChange attributes of the inputs, we've passed in that handler function. And with the handle submit, this is what we use to submit the form. And with that, we are essentially creating a collection that's, the name is the user's token. And then in that collection that we've just created, we're adding the form data and then setting the initial state back. So just like clearing the form again. And then we're using the use history hook to redirect you to the list view so that you can see what you've added. And this is our form. And we've got the item name input area right here. And this takes care of the value. And this is the handle change. And these are our radio buttons here. And we were having issues with the UI on the radio button. You would be able to select an option, but the UI wasn't changing like we anticipated. You would have to do like a double click just to get the option to change, to reflect the change. And that was because we had accidentally put prevent default in the handle form change function. And that was doing some wonky stuff to the UI and keeping it from changing like we wanted it to. So once we took that out, we were able to get it to act like it should. And that is pretty much it for my bit. I'm gonna hand it over to Rachel and she's gonna explain the use Firestore hook and also the list component.
Thanks, Dee. Yeah, so we're using the Firestore hook and we're passing it our user token, as Dee said, when we're sending our form data. And that's our collection that we're interested in using. And so we want this in our on snapshot to listen for new data and then loop through the collection to return the data. So we were having an issue where we were having a memory leak in our app. And thanks to Chris's help, well, everybody sort of chiming in, but Chris Tunner helped us find our solution. We had our return unsubscribe line 15. It was incorrectly placed in the function that we were passing to onSnapshot. So when we moved it to be returned from the use effect, we were able to actually run it as a cleanup function as it should, which allows the unmounted, which allows you to clean up when components are unmounting. So once we got that working, no more memory leak, and we were returning it exactly as it should. So if we go over to the list view or component, we can see here again, we're passing the token as props to get that collection, and then we're mapping through it and returning unordered list items with our new added list items. So that's about it. Any questions?
That was
Wow.
beautiful. It sounds like you learned so much. I love it. So what does onSnapshot do?
That is listening to Firestore to see that if there are changes made to the database collections.
I love it. Beautiful. Thank you.
Nice.
Wow. You too. Such great explanations for everything.
Gosh, that was beautiful. Both of these demos were incredible, and I can't even stop it. It was amazing.
Yeah, great job, y'all.
A really good job.
There's even another bit of awesomeness too, which is the form validation. So if you try to enter it without a name, I really like the way that the form handled that. So that was awesome.
A+ team. A+. Yes.
Woo.
Beautiful. Great.
Great. Okay, aren't these the best demos? Honestly.
I'm not needed here. I will see my way out. Bye. No, but seriously, I do have to go to another group. This was incredible to see. I am so proud of you all. This app is beautiful and the code is so clean and you're learning such valuable things. So I'm so proud of you. Keep up the amazing work and I hope your retro goes well. I hope you find some really solid ways to grow and have great praise in the process. And I will see you soon. Really good job, everybody.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thanks,
Thank you.
Stacy.
Bye. Thanks for coming.
Stacy.
Love you all.
Bye.
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 That was sweet.
Ah, thanks. Demos are so great. I love it.
Lauren, I
Right.
had a question. So I remember you mentioning this the other night with the event default or prevent default, right? Do you, you only put that in the text field, or when it's like sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, go for it. So so event prevent default, I linked it in the chat. Did you see? you go to the chat, I linked Mozilla's explanation. So if we read that, it tells us that the event does not get explicitly handled. Its default action should not be taken as it normally would be. So for example, if I'm submitting a form, kind of the thing that would normally happen if I don't put in event.prevent default is basically like the whole page will refresh. So in general, event.prevent default, I'm not wanting to prevent the default thing from happening when I'm just typing in an input or when I'm changing an input's value like a radio button. I think that was what was stopping, like preventing from happening the actual on change. But Mozilla will be more eloquent than I am.
Why is that the default behavior of a form, Lauren?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably because in previous kinds of app development, you would like route to a new place is my suspicion, but I guess I don't know. Why is it the default?
So traditionally, when you would click submit on a form, it would then make a post request to a particular endpoint that is on your REST API. And then that endpoint, when it receives the form submission, would then return back like a new success page or whatever. And you're right, that it would make a total refresh of the page. It would make a full re-request to the server. And this is pretty much how web development used to be done. On websites like, you know, Craigslist or whatever, that's pretty much how all the forms are going to work. But we're building a single page application. And that's like a newer way of doing things. And so in our application, we don't really want to make new full requests of the page to the server. We just want to keep using the same page. And so that's like the primary reason why we prevent the default form behavior. We just intercept it, and then we ourselves manage calling that post back to the database. And then once it's done, we also manage doing the redirect using the React routing stuff. So just a little bit of historical context there, which I always find is helpful with web because there's so much historical background, and like a lot of things are just weird because that's how they used to be. And now we're doing them in a totally different way in 2021, right?
Cool.
That was a cool explanation.
Yes, thank you.
Could someone talk a little bit more about memory leaks and just give like kind of a general overview of what that is?
I didn't realize there were memory leaks in React.
Yeah, like I guess a memory leak would be, and I'm sure Chris or Lauren could say this much more eloquently, but if you have, I guess, actions or state that are, I guess, behavior from the application that is affecting things outside of it after it is unmounted. Is that kind of? So like in the case of the memory leak that we had here, that Chris had pointed out, which was that after you had, what was it? You had, the form was still submitting after it had unmounted or something of that nature. So that would constitute a memory leak. I don't know. I'm butchering that. I don't know how to explain it.
I can jump in here.
Yeah.
And that was pretty close. So good job, Mike. That's actually a really good explanation, I think, of what's going wrong in the React layer. But then to like dive a little bit deeper in terms of just browser memory allocation, right? So there's this thing in computing called garbage collection. Is this a term that y'all have heard about before? Okay, so to like refresh, garbage collection is the process which automatically reaps unused memory back into the system. If we didn't ever garbage collect our applications, we would just burn through all of the system memory and eventually crash because we need to like recycle that memory. So garbage collection automatically determines which things should be released. It used to be like if you're programming in like C, you would have to tell the system, hey, I'm done with this memory now, you can get rid of it. But garbage collection just does it for us automatically. But there's certain things which indicate to the system that this particular chunk of memory can't be garbage collected yet. And the problem here is that if we still have a handler function or something hanging out that can talk to and affect the state memory. From garbage collection's perspective, it's like, well, I can't get rid of this memory yet because I know that the application might still interact with it. So that's why when we unmount a component but still try to read and write from state, that's what's fundamentally causing that memory leak in terms of the garbage collection and the actual like memory utilization.
And then bringing that back to the memory leak that we saw here, how would you describe that tangible terms of the application behavior?
Yeah, so what was happening is that we had a hook, right, that was not returning its unsubscribe. So whenever you changed pages, the unsubscribe function wasn't getting called. So the connection to the database and all of the memory that had to do with the state that was being managed in that hook as well, none of that was getting torn down. So, you know, React then handily gave us a warning about that because it's kind of a common error that you can run into.
What's odd though is that the unsubscribe was being called inside, right? It was being called a line earlier, just not in the cleanup method. So I wonder if that just makes it not work.
What do you mean by it was being called?
Wasn't it being called inside of the subscription callback?
No,
Something?
it was called inside of a Lambda, and the Lambda was what we were returning. So technically, you could actually have just done return unsubscribe instead of returning a Lambda which calls unsubscribe. But you're right, Mike, just reading through the code, you're right that there is a place where it shows unsubscribe with parentheses being called, but that's inside of a Lambda, and that Lambda then wasn't being returned. So Lambda being anonymous function. I know that's a bit of jargon.
Thank you. All right, nice. I'm going to pass it off to Mike for retro.
Cool.
Sweet.
All right. So I gave a little initial blurb about retros. Based on that, can anybody explain to me what a retro is and what we're about to be doing? Anyone?
Wait, did you give that little blurb?
Oh, it was in the chat. It's okay if you missed it.
I missed it.
Or if I thought I sent it but didn't.
I'm
in
just
this
guessing.
Zoom chat?
Yeah, well, when I sent the initial thing about the board, the link to the board. But yeah, so
I'm guessing that based on the word retro, it's a retrospective looking back at what has happened and kind of doing an assessment and seeing what went well and making a plan moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. And so retrospectives are a really big part of agile teams, and agile teams being able to self-organize, and a lot of that involves self-correction and just generally working together. So you'll find probably on most software development teams that you work on, you'll have some sort of a retrospective, and it could be at different intervals. So for our retro, we have our 3 little swim lanes, which are our appreciations, what went well, and what could be improved. So we, I think a lot of people have done it already. We wanted to reserve some time as well to add some additional cards if you haven't or have, either way. So is everyone okay taking a few minutes to add some cards? And if you want to, you can also go ahead and beef up your own cards or add some things to them, which I personally would like to do. So do you guys think is 7 minutes, given that we've already done a bunch, do you feel like 7 minutes is too much?
I think 7 minutes is good. It'll be good.
Cool. All right, well, I'm going to start a timer here.
Cool. I gotta go take away the squeaky toy. Be right back.
Okay, everyone. All right. So wake up from nap time and cool. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to go, I guess, through the group one at a time, and we'll start on the appreciations. And if you can, just explain your card and what you would like to share about that. Any questions so far? All right. So anyone want to go first, or should we just go down the list?
Maybe we can just go down the list.
Okay. Here we go.
I think that means I'm first. Is that right? Yeah, I just have been so grateful for each of my team members who have contributed. Dee shared an amazing free resource for React that's basically React start to finish. I haven't had a chance to dive into it yet, but I'm really excited to, just to kind of solidify some knowledge. And then Rachel, you met with me to go over like Heroku and freelancing and all this stuff with, your free time. So I appreciated that. And Viet has been really on top of organizing meetings and communicating. And, there have been times where I couldn't respond right away in the Slack channel, and you've been really on top of responding to our mentors. So I just wanted to thank you all for that.
Nice. Good job, guys. Cool. So is it Viet?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned this during office hours the other night, that I really value like the kind of communication that we've all had with each other, via the Slack channels or the PRs, in the past 2 weeks with my pair partner. I tend to just do a lot better when we over communicate in a way. Yeah, and just overall, everybody's been really positive and supportive, and yeah, you all are a bunch, like some really great people, and I really hope that in the future, whenever I land a job, that I've got a, you know, that I'm on a team with like people who are equally as awesome as all of you.
Cool. It's very, very nice, and you know, we're all part of a community, and we'll stay connected. So it's great. Yeah. All right, Chris.
Cool. I just had 2 quick ones here. First, shout out to Lauren for making being a mentor so easy and understandable. She's been doing an awesome job of keeping us on track, so really appreciate that. I also just wanted to say great job to both teams investigating how to use like state management tools and hooks, how to write your own hooks, and you know, just really digging into that kind of stuff. To me, this is what I expect out of people who are like really engaged and passionate and want to learn more and really dig in. And I love to see that. This is not the code of people who are just kind of like doing the bare minimum to get by. So really great job, everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Right.
Okay,
All right,
next.
Dee, you're up.
Yes. So first is just like a shout out to everyone because I had such a busy week, like the week before and this week kind of bled into both of the weeks. And everyone was just really understanding with like everything that was going on with me. And I was super, super, super stressed out, but everyone was like awesome. So it really helped me like to take like some weight off my shoulders. And also with me and Rachel's issue, like everyone offered so much advice. Like we had more than enough people helping us. Like everyone was like, oh, you should try this, you should try this, you should try this. And it was just really awesome that everyone was so willing and ready to help us. So I really appreciated that.
Nice. Very cool.
Yay.
Yeah.
So I think I've got another one here. I kind of talked already about, you know, my teammates, that second bit of that message. So the first part, I love all of the resources that you as mentors have shared and how you're sharing them ahead of time to kind of give us just a little bit of guidance on like, you might want to start thinking about this or that. So we have that foresight to go and look into certain things that are going to help us for the coming weeks. So that makes it feel, I think, less stressful to dive in because we already have some idea of maybe where we want to go. So thank you.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah, nicely said.
Sorry, I have another one.
No, it's great.
I realize.
Great that you're so appreciative.
I am.
I appreciate your appreciation.
Oh no, we could go in a cycle. The PR notes were just incredible. There was so much detail, and it's so clear to see that everyone is really looking through very carefully and being very thoughtful with the comments and the suggestions, and that is really fun to see the participation there. And because of those amazing comments, we were able to make some really good updates to our code. So thank you.
Cool. All right.
Ooh, my turn.
Yeah.
I just want to thank Chris and Mike for being so on top of it and so helpful and kind and thoughtful. I just really appreciate working with both of you. So I'm really liking our mentor team. And to the team's commitment to one another, I'm so impressed with how you're communicating with one another, and just always, I feel like you already have each other's backs all the time, and you're trusting one another, and I'm really excited about that. So this project's really going smoothly, and it's a testament to all of you. Thank you.
Cool. All right. I would say, you know, this has already been mentioned, but I thought it was absolutely amazing. I really appreciated that everyone was jumping in and saw so many solutions thrown out for a really difficult problem. And so I thought that was really, really cool. Lauren, you've been doing a great job as lead mentor, leading us, and we wouldn't be able to do it without you. And also just wanted to thank everyone for, when you submit a PR, you're taking a really big leap of faith and you're kind of like saying, hey, I created this, go and give it some criticism. And so that's really, really scary to do. And so thank you everyone for doing that. Yeah,
For sure.
Right.
And me, again, we said it before, but the resources that were shared were really great just to dive deeper and understand more about React and Firestore.
Cool. Awesome.
Good stuff.
All right. So we're going to jump on to the what went well. So Brittany?
Yeah, I think I shared in the Slack channel that I had a bit of a snafu and scheduled an interview at 4 a.m. this week because I wasn't careful enough about times. So Viet and I made a plan. It was Viet's idea. At the beginning of the week, we just said, whenever we talk about when we're going to meet up, we'll say both of our time zones so that we know for sure it's this time Pacific and it's this time Central, and we wouldn't have to deal with any of those mix-ups. So that worked very well.
Nice. Awesome.
Smart.
And Rachel?
I thought there was really good time management. I'll elaborate a little bit, but Dee and I had a plan for when we meet together, like what we're going to talk about and focus on, and I really think that helped us tackle the code in a really efficient way.
Nice. Awesome. And Viet?
Yeah, so it's what I mean by that comment is like just the iterations of the code that we're writing. So we'll start out with something, submit that, and then we'll get feedback from everybody, and the feedback's been great from the other team and from the mentors, and just like watching that process of like starting here and then slowly building to the final demo for the week has been really cool to see.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris?
Yeah, one thing that I really think is going great with this group of people is y'all are doing an excellent job sharing like tutorials and documentation links with each other. Like it's one thing to just explain something or make a comment about something, but it's always like so much better if you can link someone else to information that allows them to keep learning and to keep exploring. So I love seeing that. And it makes my job easy too, because sometimes you're already like posting the docs or tutorials before I even have to link them. So that's great to see.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I had a second one here too, which is just really high quality PR feedback and stuff. Like I'm really enjoying seeing questions about like, should this be the interface? Like, should we do this to make this easier in the future? Oh, maybe let's not do that. Like, just really good like critical thinking and good back and forth on PRs. So.
Yeah. Right, Dee.
Yeah, so my first bullet point is basically just piggybacking off of what Chris said. Like there was so much dialogue going back and forth between our PRs that it was just like, it was really awesome reading through it and just getting a chance to just communicate with everybody. And also the mentors, you guys are so like, you were really on it. Like whenever we had an issue, like for example, Chris, like he gave us advice on what to do about an issue at first, but then he doubled back and came back. It's like, no, that doesn't work. Try this. And it was just really awesome that he even like revisited our issue. And also with Lauren, she hopped on a Zoom with us when I had an issue with Git, which it seems to be happening a lot with me, but it's just really awesome that the mentors are like so eager and just available all the time, it seems. So I really appreciate that, and that went really well. And then with Rachel and I, before we even started doing anything with the code, we got together and just brainstormed and pulled up a Google Doc and just typed out what our plan of action was going to be. And I thought that was really, really helpful just to get us in the mindset of this is what we need to focus on. And even though like some of what we planned out wasn't going in the right direction, I feel like it really helped us just to get started and have like a good game plan of what we were going to do.
Nice. Awesome.
Very good, yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool to see you guys getting together and pseudocoding and playing in it. So that's really cool. Brittany?
So just, I think we did a good job of communicating cross team and saying, okay, this is when we're working on ours. This is when you're working on yours. What do you need from us? And so that was, I think, really helpful because, Viet and I knew, okay, Rachel and Dee are meeting on this day, so it would probably be best or most helpful if we can have our issue in by then. So I think that flow went really well this past week.
Nice.
And all weeks.
Cool. And Lauren?
Cool. So I will reiterate that I thought the code review has been going really, really well. Everyone's doing a fantastic job. In particular, this is something that hasn't been said, but people are jumping on code reviews right away and making it a high priority. And that's really great for successful teamwork and helping things move along really quickly. So I really appreciate people treating that as a high priority. PR descriptions are fantastic. And then I love that people are reaching out for help and not stewing about something and being stuck for a long time. That's great to reach out. And so good job.
Nice. This one's me. So PR descriptions are just ridiculously good. Like best I've ever seen. Really, really well documented code. There are a lot of really great comments and everything's really, it's just easy to read. So I think that's going really well. And also these were really interconnected tasks and I feel like everyone, there wasn't that much friction there because everyone's talking to each other. So yeah, I think that went really well. And Rachel?
Yeah. So again, the discussions and the PRs were just very helpful. The detailed documentation, as we all said, that was shared. The alternative approaches, like how Chris had said, I tried this, I tried that, and like we could kind of implement those things. Brittany had some to try, so it was really helpful. And then just, yeah, it was a productive dialogue. Like we were able to solve our issues and just learn from each other.
Nice, really cool. Okay, so I think we're running a little late here today, and we're at, the improvement is obviously very important, but why don't we just, we'll kind of skim through these and maybe we can see if there's one or two that we want to chat about. Does that work for everyone?
Sure.
So I'll just read them aloud as we go through. So maybe a more detailed explanation of code review before week 1. Also like to do more unit testing. I think I mentioned unit testing. Teams should feel like they don't have to give a complete tour of their code for demos. Just the interesting highlights are fine. Real world demos will frequently have non-technical audiences too, so sometimes this kind of information is overwhelming, but not for us. Stay noisy in Slack. Let's see, I think we're doing a great job. Just want to remind us to keep up the great work. A reminder that the weekly pairing threads. Is this helpful that I'm reading aloud or not? Yeah, okay. A reminder that the weekly pairing threads are a great resource for the week and will also help you and remember how you tackled issues. Nice. As we go forward, since team is already so great at planning and communicating, want to encourage you to think even more about 4 of you as being one team. You're already starting to do this naturally, for sure. And I just said they would, if these are like stretch crazy goal, but unit tests and and if you can use the React Firebase hooks library. Does anyone want to jump into any of these that caught your eye?
I have one.
Mm-hmm.
Chris's comment about the demos. What specifically should we be sharing and not sharing then? Because I feel like we are sharing a lot, but I don't know like what's important.
Yeah, so whenever I'm giving a demo of something, like in my job, right, 90% of the time I would say don't show any code at all. I just show the application and I'm like, here's what I did, here's what I actually did for users, and I give it in a way that like anybody, I could pull someone off the street and just be like, here's the change that I made to this application. The times where I will talk about my code are if I ran into like a really big problem that revealed some major flaw or technical debt issue. That might be something that I bring up with the team and just like highlight real quickly as I'm moving. If I pull in a new library or like a new kind of technology, like let's say that I decided, okay, this time I'm bringing in GraphQL, let's do this. I might take a moment to just give a quick tour of like, here's the new library, here's me using it. Like that kind of thing where it's like brand new information that the rest of the developers on the team are really going to benefit from seeing, right? And it's tough right now, right? Because like for y'all, so much of this is that kind of brand new information that is beneficial. So I totally don't want to discourage you from doing that. But the fact that it's already 5:03 does mean that we could get a little snappier with our demos probably, so.
Nice. Cool. Any other things, or should we wrap this up?
Oh, I'll mention one thing. Yeah. Some of the method of Collab Lab's madness is to have participants practice a particular skill, like GitHub, for example, and maybe feel like they have to wrestle with it for a little bit and then offer some learning about that skill to give participants a chance to try it out first before we offer like, this is what you should do. So it's tricky with the GitHub one. That's why we started this. This is the first time that we had doing the GitHub learning module that first week. But we usually hold off on doing the code review learning module until the end of week 1 to sort of get people's feet wet, let them try something out, and then offer some learning on it. So it's sort of the method to our madness, but totally get it.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll say that concludes our first retro. So great job, everyone.
Yeah, nice job.
Nice thoughtful.
Thanks for running it, Mike.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. We want to do a real quick issue review.
Let's do it.
Okay, let me share my screen. And I believe that our teams actually have already looked at the issues beforehand. Has everyone had a chance to look at them? Cool. So they're pretty, I think they're pretty quickly understandable, fortunately for us. So issue number 5 here is we want to be able to share a shopping list with someone else. So being able to join an existing shopping list and have both people read and write from the same list. Some important AC to consider here is that we should still show the form if they don't have a token, just like it does today. But they should also be able to enter a new token and like overwrite it or basically give a custom token that someone else has given them, effectively giving them joint control of that list. When they submit the form, you're going to have to do a little bit of validation here and check in the API if the token exists yet or not. Probably you're going to have to do that by querying to see if any items have been added to that list. I imagine it might be tough to check an empty list, but maybe there would be a way for you to figure that out as an interesting stretch goal. And if they do get an error, then allow them to try again. Maybe they typed the token in wrong or something, right? Or maybe give them an option to create a new list if maybe they just got to this page by accident and they're doing something wrong, you know? So that's issue 5. Any questions on this one? Cool. Hopefully pretty straightforward. So the other issue, number 6, This is also kind of some validation stuff. Both tickets have to do with validation. This time around, it's preventing users from accidentally adding a duplicate item. So if a user tries to submit an item with the exact same name, then we should show an error, basically saying, hey, you've already got that item in your list. Make sure that you are normalizing for capitalization and punctuation. So if I've already added shoes and then I add, capital S shoes, those should be treated as the same item and still be considered a duplicate. And just make sure that whatever normalization that you're doing to persist the original input that the user gave initially into the database. Any questions on this one? Okay. So let's figure out which team is going to be on which one. I believe the teams have been posted to Slack already.
Yeah, Dee and Brittany are a pair, and Rachel and Viet are a pair this week.
Right.
I think I would prefer to do this issue that we have, but I'm open to doing either one. So that was my that's my 2 cents on that.
Would you be interested in doing issue number 5 or 6, the other one?
Oh, I don't have a preference.
Okay. Well, then I would say, Viet, if you're more interested in the other one, Rachel, if you're flexible, then.
Yeah, I'm happy with either. So.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Sounds like y'all got your stuff to work on. And yeah, if you have any more questions about the issues, just let us know. But looks like we're good to go.
All right. Great work, everyone.
Yeah,
Thanks.
awesome week too.
We'll talk to you. We'll talk
Yeah,
to
great
you
job.
Slack.
All right. Thank
See ya.
you.
All right, good job.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.